Routers are arguably one of the most versatile handheld power tools in the woodworking trade because they can perform a multitude of different cutting operations, from rebating and dadoing to profiling and shaping. If there is wood to be cut, it can be cut with a router. There are many different routers to choose from, but all fall under three basic categories: standard routers, plunge routers, and trim routers. Some models will have a fixed base and a plunge base that are interchangeable with the same motor. While all routers vary in size and appearance, their makeup remains universal. We will begin with the standard router. Whenever we are adjusting depth or changing bits, ensure that the router is unplugged and the cord end is in a visible location. This router consists of a motor and a router base. The motor on this unit is 11 amp and indicated on the manufacturer's tag. The on-off switch is located on the side of the motor, but some models will have this on the top of the motor or on the handle. Always ensure that the motor is switched off before plugging the router in. A switch left on can harm the operator, the router, or the workpiece. Some models will have a variable speed dial located near the top of the motor. As a general guide, the larger the bit, the slower the speed. The motor powers the spindle, which is attached to the collet and the collet nut. The collet secures the router bit in the motor. There are two main sizes of collets, 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch. The collet is split and tightens on the shank of the router bit when the collet nut is tightened on the spindle. Whenever possible, use bits with a 1/2 inch shank. They will vibrate less and increase the quality of cut on your workpiece. The router base is adjustable and slides up and down the motor to change the depth of cut. To adjust the depth, open the lock lever on the base and rotate the motor. Lock the lever when the correct depth of cut is achieved. The base has a spiral groove which guides a pin that is fixed on the motor. This base has two secure handles attached to aid the user in controlling the router. Most routers will have holes on the base to attach an edge guide or auxiliary attachment. The sub-base on the bottom is made from plastic or a phenolic material and is removable. This piece helps prevent scratching and marring on our workpiece. There is a hole which allows the router bit to pass through. This hole can also be fitted with a collar to aid in template cuts. Our plunge router is very similar to our standard router with one big difference: the ability to make plunge cuts. We can take our router bit and engage it into the middle of our workpiece to a specified depth. The motor is connected to the base with two rods that are spring-loaded and move up and down to change the depth of cut. On this model, the motor is locked in place by rotating the knob clockwise. To loosen, rotate the knob counterclockwise. The depth gauge helps us measure the depth of cut. The depth stop rod can be changed to set the depth of cut. Lock the rod in place with the lever when the desired amount of bit is exposed. The turret on the base allows for convenient depth changes to preset positions during routing operations. This is useful when doing routings in several passes. The trim router is primarily used for trimming laminate and smaller routing operations like easing edges. This trim router is very similar to our standard router but smaller in size, and this model is cordless. Due to their smaller size, trim routers only accept 1/4 inch bits. To lock out this cordless trim router, remove the battery from the motor. The base attaches to the motor with a locking lever which clamps onto the motor housing. The height adjustment works on a rack and pinion style system compared to the pin and groove system mentioned before. There is also an edge guide and a bearing attachment that can be slid onto the base. There are no handles on the trim router. Instead, your dominant hand will grasp the router base. No matter what router you choose, you will find very few woodworking machines that give you this first-hand connection to the machining that is being done. Work safe and happy routing.